Hi, I'm Ryan O'Dowd, and this is the Black Hand Communique. Today's episode is going to be about something controversial, even among the activist sphere. See, because today I'm going to try to dismantle, or at least give my opinion against, what is commonly referred to as the NAP, the non-aggression principle. To describe the non-aggression principle is pretty easy. It's more or less the golden rule. Do unto others as you'd have them do unto you. Or more specifically in the NAP, do not aggress upon anyone for any reason, or else you have violated the only useful tenet for deciding what gets done and how it gets done and who it gets done to, which is whether or not you are aggressive, and that you shouldn't be. Now, at first, this principle is deceptive. It's deceptive. It sounds like something very nice. It sounds great. Non-aggression principle. No one aggresses against anybody else. Because if you aggress, then violence can be used against you justifiably. That's how justifiable violence is defined in the libertarian community. Is if you have been aggressed against, then violence is justified in return. Which you might say is a still more moral or more reasonable ethic than the state usually uses to argue, which is violence is useful of the will of the representative of the majority against anyone they want at will, right? And yet, if you examine the NAP, you can quickly discover that it has a very, very pronounced flaw. You see, the non-aggression principle takes away from people the only thing they have to use against those that are already powerful. You see, in a society with property and money and laws and the state and the government and banking, take out any of those things and leave even one of them, there will be a elite class. Even in a anarchist society, if property is still there and or money is still there, there will be the creation of what's called a natural elite, or an elite minus aggression, or what have you. But nonetheless, there will be the creation of an elite. And for this reason, the NAP amounts to a direct violation of the only way the poor has to defend itself against those that would oppress it. In a society which treats human beings like cattle, to be coerced, or as they like to say, incentivized into labor agreements, a society which takes people's money, sure, and that sucks, but also time, hours and hours a week given to things you care not about because you must continue to spin like a hamster in a wheel. And finally, your relationships themselves become dismantled and become severed and become augmented so that you are not a human being, you are an employee relating to an employer. You're not two people in love, you are a man in relation to a woman. You are not a human being on a spiritual journey, you are a denominationally bound, wall-restricted, ritualistically practiced religious member, or atheist, because if you doubt, then you are not allowed to have spiritual beliefs. You must deny in all essence. And when you are a part of this class of people who are the subject class, which I am, and I am sure you are too, and when your time and your money has been taken from you, your relationships have been skewed so that they cannot be authentic, and your very identity is filtered at all times to make you work within a paradigm to make more money for this ruling class. When that happens, there is only violence. And I know what you're thinking. This man is a fanatic. He's insane. He's suggesting violence. But I want you to think about this literally. To the man on the block, working 2 jobs, 30 to 40 hours each week for minimum wage or just over, who owns no property, no house, no business, unless you count his illegal drugs trade, which he will be thrown in prison if the state and the powerful find out about. His relationships strained because of the stress put on them by the economic processes he has to perform. To this man who is all too common, who we all know, what way does he have to influence the society and the world that he lives in, really? What way is he able to assert his values on those who set up the system to slave him in the first place? How? Literally, not morally, not religiously, not according to a principle like the NAP, not even philosophically like a communist or a capitalist or any of that, but literally, how can this man assert himself on those who control him besides violence? All he has is his body to sell to them, to rent to them, so that he will be of some use to them in their system. Some use to them in their system, so that he is earning the right to have access to things that he would have had for free if the system didn't exist in the first place. The land to fall asleep on, the water that comes from the sky with no human effort, and the air that we breathe around us, that no human has to prepare but only can destroy in the form of climate change, only can destroy in the form of industrial pollution, only can destroy in the form of smog so thick that the urban human being has increased cancer rates because of the very machine they are forced into. How can this man assert himself against Wall Street, against the banking establishment, against the government, other than violence? There's no way. So I am against the NAP, because it can only serve to disenfranchise those who are only oppressed. And that is a literal fact. Morally and idealistically, we all wish we lived in a world that wasn't the case. We wish we lived in a world where the common man, the average human being, the common woman, has the ability to have influence over themselves and those that are around them in a way that does not degrade them, that does not make them inauthentic, does not force them into lies and deceit, does not force them to sell their body like a fucking cow to a farmer. And yet they can't and may never, as long as those definitions exist. And so if the NAP is there and it is being pushed in revolutionary and activist and philosophical circles, but the people pushing it are still standing behind property or money or law or the banks or the allowance for interest at all. If anything is limiting our access to those 3 things which we all have by birth without any human labor, land, water, and air, then only violence can be the expression of the poor and the oppressed. For this reason, the NAP is shit. And for this reason, I renounce it. I'm Ryan O'Dowd of the Black Hand Communique. Fuck the damn machine.